Hello and welcome to Guns and Gear. You know, I've been wanting to make a series of videos and talk about knives that folks may choose to use in a survival situation. Usually either by itself or maybe in association with other knives and other equipment like saws and axes and stuff. And at any rate, I'd hope to make some camping videos this year. But as many of you know, I contracted Lyme disease and really haven't been able to do very much of that. So I thought I would set some knives on the table and begin the conversation and talk about those types of knives to be used in survival. Now, this is not some sort of a list of blades and these are the only blades you can choose from. No, and that's not even close to the amount of knives that I'm going to talk about while I'm making these videos. But what the knives laying on the table do represent is a pretty good selection of different steels, different blade shapes, different grinds, different edges, tangs, you know, kind of a broad variety. So with that, let me go ahead and get started and name these, because I know that people are interested in at a certain knife they'll see in a video, and if I don't name it, they're going to ask me. And if I do name it, some of the folks that don't watch the video will ask me anyway. First up is a knife from Bark River Knives. You're going to see a lot of Bark River Knives in these videos because I like Bark River Knives. They have a broad variety of knife designs and steels and handle materials and all these things, and I've always found them to be very good quality knives. This happens to be called a Gunny. It's part of the Bravo series of knives, and this has a 3 3/4 inch blade. It's the shortest fixed blade on the table. It's that CPM 3V steel, and overall it's just an outstanding little knife. Next to that is a bushcrafting type of knife from Spyderco, and it uses 01 high carbon steel. And you know, even though I never really thought much of the looks of their folding knives, this fixed blade knife is just absolutely awesome. Next to this is a Benchmade knife, and it is a Griptilian, fixed bladed Griptilian style of knife, and it uses I believe 154 cm steel. Outstanding little knife. Next to that is a Bark River. It's a hunting knife. It's a Kalahari is the name of it. Recent design from Bark River. Anyway, it has some beautiful Impala horn handles and just an all-around great design knife. Next to this is a knife from Entrek. Entrek is a company that's been around for quite a while, and they make knives from 440C stainless steel, and they really know how to heat treat that steel and get the maximum utility out of it. And this is called 11 Bravo. Next to that is another Bark River knife, and it's another Bark River knife that has the name Bravo in it. This is the Bravo 1.25, has a 5-inch blade, 3/16 of an inch thick of CPM 3V steel with their convex edge. Next to that is a knife from Survive Knives, and even though I do not like the owner of Survive Knives, and I do not like his business practices, I think they make a pretty nice knife, and we'll talk about that for a bit. This is a 5-inch blade, so I think this is called their 5.0. Next to that is a Scott Gossman knife. Gossman knives are great knives. They're very utilitarian, very robust. This happens to be a representation of a Kephart design. The knife next to that is a Fallkniven S1, and this really represents a lot of what I like in a good belt knife that can be used for camping or survival or hunting or just about anything. This is the knife that's actually sitting in my day bag that I carry back and forth between my truck and my house to use as a survival knife. Next to that is a Skagel design knife. It's made by Mike Stewart over at Bark River Knives, and it makes it for a company that bought the Skagel name, but it represents an older design knife. It does have a stick tang, and it's an absolutely rugged, robust knife that you could depend on. The knife next to that is from Blind Horse Knives, and it's called the Pack Horse. And this is a knife that I've used as a belt knife on camping trips, several camping trips in the last couple of years, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. It's a 01 steel, 3/16 inch thick, saber grind, You look at it though, it kind of looks like a butcher knife a little bit, doesn't it? A lot of the older design knives were in fact designed after or were butcher types of blades. The knife next to it is another Scott Gossman, or Gossman's knives. I actually commissioned Scott Gossman to make this knife for me, something I wish he still did. This has a convex edge, 6-inch blade, and S35 VN steel. I knew I would have a plane come by. The next knife is a K-bar, and I had to have some sort of a K-bar military knife or people get all nervous. Let this plane ease by. And this is the K-bar next generation fighting knife, I believe is what it's called. And next to it is a cold steel knife, and this knife is a Recon Bowie. I've always liked the way that knife feels in my hand. The next knife is from Ross Arms, and that is in Russia, and it's called the Taiga, and it uses a kind of a interesting steel, BGM 42 or something of that nature. Maybe I'll annotate it, maybe I'll just wait when I talk about it. But it's a very utilitarian design knife, 8-inch blade. That steel, by the way, is supposed to have similar properties to steels like ATS 34 and 154 CM steel. The knife next to that is a knife that, man, I just love this knife. This is from A.G. Russell. It's a knife that he has had built using a high carbon with a coating over it. And man, I tell you what, it's just a great knife. I like the design of the Bowie, and that's a pretty good representation of a versatile Bowie knife. Next to that is another Bowie knife, and it's from K-Bar. It's their heavy Bowie, and just a knife that you see a lot on YouTube. The knife next to that, this knife right here, and I'll spin the camera around a little bit. This is a very recent release from Bark River. It's their Hudson Bay 2 knife. Represents those older design knives that are frontiersmen and mountain men and people like that used on a daily basis for their survival out in the wilderness. So looking at some of the older designs, we can learn a great deal on what they thought about their blades. Next to that is another cold steel knife, and it's the Trailmaster, which is a Bowie inspired type of knife. Outstanding knife. It's a knife that I've had for a very long time. I bought this knife when they first came out. It's in carbon 5 steel, and it's a pretty good knife. Another Bark River knife, and the last knife on the end here is a Bowie design knife. This is the Grasso Bolo 2. Did I say Bowie? I meant Bolo. Anyway, Bolo knives are knives that I really like, and I've made a video talking about Bolos and military Bolos and how I came to enjoy that blade shape. And that is, in my opinion, one of the most utilitarian, versatile Bolos that I own. Now these big knives back here are not exactly what you call belt knives, but they can be companion knives to belt knives that adds capability. And I love big knives. I don't know how else to say it. I have a huge selection I think a huge selection of really big blades, and here's a pretty good representation of those knives. First up is another U.S. military Bolo, and this knife right here is nothing short of being a beast. It's the closest thing to an indestructible knife that I've ever owned. I've owned it for 20 plus years. I have beat on it and thrown it up against trees and everything else, and I've never been able to do very much significant damage to it. The knife next to it is from Aragnac Knives, and that's called a ENIP -1. It's the largest in their series of ENIP type of knives. Those knives are indigenous of Thailand. The steel 5160 is made in Thailand, and it's heat treated, and the edge is put on it by hand in Hawaii from Aragnac Knives. Just a durable, no nonsense working tool. And Aragnac Knives has YouTube videos, and there's a video which you can watch where a very similar knife to this one right here, the guy is taking apart a stump and he's using hammers to beat on the back of the knife, doing no damage to the steel, and in fact actually breaking hammers while he's beating this knife through that tree stump. quite impressive. Next to this utilitarian work blade is a work of art, and this is from Beck Knives, and it's their camp knife, and it's just an outstanding knife. And this is a 100% custom knife. It's 5160 steel, forged by Beck, shaped by Beck, ground by Beck, sharpened by Beck, and the handle material was shaped and put on there again by Beck. It's a one-man operation, and this is a true custom knife. Some of the custom knives that people refer to, in my opinion, are semi-custom, right? All they do is they order steel, they may heat treat it themselves, they may ask other people to do it, whatever the case may be. Beck does everything from start to finish, or at least on some knives. Some knives are stock removal, and he'll heat treat them and grind them and sharpen them and put handles on them, but this knife is a 100% custom knife. The knife next to it is from Tops, and it is the Power Eagle, and it's a Bolo basic design knife. By the way, this Beck knife, this camp knife, is a excuse me, a Golok type of a knife. I think you could categorize it. Anyway, the Power Eagle is a pretty good knife. It is a big knife that has a full flat grind, so that is good for some things, not so well for others. And we're going to talk about, you know, the grinds and how they have their effect with the blade shapes and designs, and what you can do with them, and what they do best and what they don't do as well. Kukris, people love their kukris, especially in these recent years, and this is a kukri from Nepal. Outstanding knife for chopping, obviously, from the shape and the forward power that you can get from that, and would make a great companion knife with another smaller, more utilitarian blade as a pretty good system for survival. Next to that is another Bark River knife. This is their bush knife, and they came out with just a few of these last year. I think they intend to add that to the regular lineup of knives. And next to that is a Golok from Bark River Knives, and that's one of my favorite big knives. And because of the versatility, it's like a heavy machete, and you can do a little bit of chopping with it, and you can do some batoning with it because of the long blade, and you can hack your way through the stickers and the briars and things of that nature, and it's not too big, it's not too heavy, because it's kind of a narrow blade. Next up is another Bowie knife, and this is from Svord, S-V-O-R-D, and the knife is I guess Svord is out of New Zealand. But anyway, this knife really has a cool story, because the design comes from an adventurer named Von Tepsky, and really cool how that came about, and I just really like the knife, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. The next knife here is another Bark River knife. It's a J-Nap. It's very similar to the E-Nip in that it combines a Golok, not a Golok, but a Kukri and a Bolo design. Alright folks, well here's just a little collection of knives to show you. Oh wait a minute, you got to show a Mora. If you don't show a Mora, it's not really a video about survival, is it? Alright folks, well thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And remember to shoot straight on the range and in life. Thanks.